Canada, hors de l'OTAN! Canada, hors de l'OTAN!
Montrealers gathered downtown to protest against Canada's role in NATO. On July 7th and 8th, NATO countries met in Turkey for their annual summit. The gathering downtown was hosted by the Quebec Movement for Peace. Their Vice President Greg Beaune says they want Canada to leave NATO and dictate its own foreign policies. During the NATO summit, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that Canada would reach 5% GDP spending on defense by 2035. This comes as Canada has reached 2% spending, the previous goal before President Trump campaigned for an increase. Beaune says the increase is a way to help the United States with their foreign policy goals.
Right, so it's a multi-pronged situation, right? The first one is sovereignty. The real issue is those augmentations in the budget from 2% to 5% do not come from anywhere. They come from the United States and their demands for all members of NATO to dedicate larger and larger parts of their budget, right? 5% of the GDP per year is equal to 1/3 of the current federal budget and equal to $150 billion at the current rate. So as the GDP increases, the amount will increase as well. We see that as an enormous waste of resources. Not only because most of that money will be spent in procurement of military weapons that cannot be really used for the defense of Canadian territory, but more so to accompany the United States in its own projects across the world. As we see today, the most amount of the work done by the Canadian military outside of Canada is to accompany imperialist pressures on China, to participate in the military buildup in Europe, and generally speaking, to serve as a junior partner to American imperialism. So we see that as a failure of Canadian capacity of having its own independent foreign policy.
The Quebec Movement for Peace believes that the money could be used for issues in Canada.
We also see that as an enormous waste of budgeting, given the fact that we have multi-pronged social crises happening in Canada at the moment, not only housing, but also healthcare, education, the infrastructure. We also have the climate crisis that needs an addressing. Essentially, we think that with $150 billion, we can use it for much more useful elements, both for Canadian people and Quebecois people, but also for society in general.
While Beaune and his organization want Canada to cut ties with NATO, the federal government plans on growing those ties with the new Defense, Security and Resilience Bank set to be built in Canada. 4 cities are in the running to be home of the bank: Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. No decision has been made yet, but it has garnered support from Mayor Soraya Martinez-Ferrada, as well as Premier Christine Frechette. Beaune is against building the bank anywhere in Canada and says his organization doesn't see the proposed benefits.
Now, with regards to the kind of benefits that might come from the NATO bank, we don't see any. As we've mentioned in speeches, the NATO bank will serve as a way to facilitate finance and loan, well, essentially participate in the transfer of wealth that will arrive inevitably with the $150 billion spent in the military infrastructure and military expenditures. So for us, it's a nonsensical idea. And we're not against it just in Quebec. We're against it anywhere in Canada.
The Quebec Movement for Peace hopes the federal government sees citizens' opposition to NATO and wars and reverses course. Canada, however, does not have any plans to leave NATO, and the race for the bank in 4 major cities is on. For Local 514, Zach Dutra.